My name is Amy Nino. I am the president of the Music Therapy Association of Ontario. I'm also a accredited music therapist and psychotherapist and musician. So I do lots of different things, but my role with the MTAO is the president. I've been in the field of music therapy for over 20 years, which is kind of crazy, and have worked with a variety of populations, done a lot of supervision, done teaching, and I'm currently working on my PhD.
My name's Callahan Connor. I am the Public Relations Chair for the MTAO, and I'm also a accredited music therapist. Fairly recently, I got out of school about 2 years ago. I did a Master's of Music Therapy at Laurier. Had the pleasure of being an intern with Amy as my supervisor for a little while, actually. I'm also a musician and a spoken word artist, and I'm really interested in, the arts generally and their ability to connect us to meaning and community and agency and self-expression and all of the good stuff.
What is music therapy and who does it serve?
An interesting way, and this is often how I approach it, is actually what music therapy isn't. It's not music education. We're not trying to teach someone how to learn something, but yet education can be a part of music therapy. So we can use it as a goal in music therapy, but the goal isn't for them to learn necessarily how to play the piano. They might be learning how to play the piano to achieve other goals, like, say, fine motor. So they can be working on fine motor, and the piano is the means for them to achieve that type of goal. It's also not recreation. So we can have a music as therapy. So if a community member goes into a hospital and plays their violin, beautiful, very effective, very important, but not music therapy. It's therapeutic music for sure, but it's not clinical. Our approach is very much based in the clinical understanding of someone and being able to support them in that way. So we're approaching it in a way that we have education in music, and we have education in psychology, and we bring those two together to help people. So what is music therapy ultimately is that it's a means for people to use music to help themselves. And we are there as a triangular therapist music client to be able to support that to happen.
Who is it for? I would say there's different populations who might benefit from different approaches of music therapy in different ways. Music therapy could be used in a rehabilitative context, for example. Like, there's some neurologic music therapy techniques which could be used to help someone learn to walk again after they've had a stroke, or to speak again. Music therapy could be used in the end phase of someone's life to assist with issues more related to grief and meaning and life review and legacy, holding space to help process very complex emotions, also to help support family processes. And also the structured aspects of music could help, say, children with autism to communicate or recognize and express emotions, socialize and connect in different ways when facilitated by a music therapist who is working in the context of those sorts of goals and collaborating with clients. It could help with those sorts of things as well. It's really diverse in the human experience of the different ways that music may affect the brain and how that could be used to help facilitate maybe rehabilitative goals, and the different ways that human beings connect to music for meaning and self-expression and agency and validation. Those could all be used to help a person.
What is the most rewarding thing about doing music therapy?
I would say connecting with people through music. For me, music is something that I love and enjoy, is something I'm naturally drawn to. So if you get to do that, to engage in that in a meaningful way, in a purposeful way with someone else or a group of other people, and to be able to understand how I can impact people with that music to help them, is a really empowering feeling. For me, it's an amazing experience to be able to do that in so many different ways, with so many different instruments, in so many different environments. And it all sort of takes on its own context. So there's always something different.
The ability to use music, which is something I already connect with so meaningfully in my own life. I have experienced a lot of personal growth and healing and reflection through my own relationship with music, but being able to take that, or perhaps the sensitivity of that, out of this idiosyncratic personal experience into something quite universal connects me to something really deeply human. I feel like I am participating in a type of human relationship with mutual validation through shared self-expression. Currently takes the particular clinical scientific form of something you'd call music therapy. And so I feel like I'm connecting to something much larger than myself or larger than any individual. And that has been giving me a sense of meaning. I have been lucky to see sorrow turn into joy, or isolation to turn into connection and validation. And it's felt like a privilege to be a part of very deep witnessing, deep sharing through that.
I feel like most of us come into this field of music because we love music. Like, for example, we all have an instrument that we play before or a song that has touched us. It's very important for people who are into music to know that there's other fields and other ways you can inspire people with music. Realizing that we can touch people with music in a lot of ways is very meaningful. So I appreciate your guys' work. What do you think is the biggest opportunity for music therapy, and where would you like to see it go in the future? Like, if you would want people to be more aware of what music therapy is, or if there's a part of music therapy that might be misunderstood by some people.
I'm going to jump in right away and
I'm gonna think.
to expand evidence and research. So really, as I mentioned, I've been at this for about 20 years, and it's been really interesting because when I came into the field, as you probably know, we sort of have qualitative and quantitative research, right? And music therapy, very much when I entered the field, our ability to say that this works was very much based off of qualitative information. So very much, anecdotal, people sharing stories, this helped me, all very valid. But in the scientific world, quantitative data is where it's at. And hospitals and medical settings and people who value numbers and facts and things like that. And where qualitative data just doesn't have the same weight as our field. It's important to have both, but in the past 20 years, quantitative research in our field has grown exponentially. You can be in a long-term care and someone's family's there and they're sharing how impactful this has been on their loved one that's in this place. All well and good, but now we could say in a neurologic setting, someone is able to work on their gait and you're actually able to measure steps, and you're doing that in such a way that now you can have this quantitative data. So for me, I want to see that to continue to grow because that's where we get our validity. Music therapy in Canada right now is not recognized as a therapy that is government regulated, as opposed to psychotherapy or something like that. So we want eventually for that to happen, and we'll get there, but where it really will change and actually become something that a doctor would prescribe is through that quantitative data. So more research, the ability to continue to understand and then show exactly what we can do in so many different ways with music.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to give a better answer than what Amy gave. I thought, like, I agree completely, and that's like very concisely and aptly said. I think there's some really interesting opportunities in like technology and music therapy for different sorts of innovations in adaptive musical instruments, interactive app designs, different ways that people with mobility, motor function, expressive sorts of needs would be able to engage or have their engagement sort of enhanced by different sorts of technologies. I think there's some really interesting research going on and like innovation going on that's just more powerful and effective in the future. At the end of the day, a music therapist and a client and a drum could take you as far as you need to go. There's not like necessarily a need to invest in fancy technologies in order to further validate the experience. But I just think that there's some very interesting opportunities to use and explore and develop technologies that could make music therapy more accessible for people with different sorts of needs.
What can people do to support music therapy?
That's actually a great question. Be curious. There's lots on the internet, certainly, that you can Google and get your head around. There's organizations like the Music Therapy Association of Ontario that have websites with information, and certainly the ability to contact and reach out if someone has an interest in music therapy, it's likely because of two things. They're either interested in a field perhaps they'd like to explore as a profession, or they have a need for exploring it as a therapeutic experience, either for themselves or for someone in their life. And so for that, we want to be able to connect them that way. So if it's someone who is looking and interested into becoming a music therapist, or what the field entails and what it takes to become an accredited music therapist, certainly reaching out to the MTAO, certainly reaching out to the Canadian Music Therapy Association, understanding about what it takes in terms of education and all of the process that happens. And if someone is looking to either refer themselves or refer someone else to clinical sessions and to have a consultation and perhaps explore having therapy, again, going to the MTAO website, we actually have an ability to submit a referral that then gets sent out to music therapists and members of the MTAO music therapists across Ontario. So I think that would be the best way I can answer a really great question. I don't think I've ever really been asked that in that way. So
me neither.
Thank you.
Yeah. If somebody wants to support it, it's because they're drawn to it in some sort of way. There's a resonance of some kind, whether it's like, oh, could I do this myself? Or which is what I felt once upon a time, maybe witnessing the beauty of it, or resonating inside that, like, this could be profoundly helpful for people. If one follows their curiosity and the resonance they feel about that, I think it might naturally lead them to, TED Talks, for example, different sorts of literature, different sorts of readings they might find, and that might continue to deepen their curiosity, expose them to interesting things that they could then share themselves with their communities, assist themselves with this overall music therapy advocacy sort of mission.
I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to talk about music therapy. And now my knowledge of music therapy has widened, so I really appreciate it. There's a lot of overlap between what Music Counts' mission is and music therapy too. So knowing that like our work really impacts people is very rewarding, and we're very lucky to be in this field.
Really, again, thank you to you for reaching out, for giving us an opportunity to advocate what we are passionate about, and just great to chat with another musician and someone who, even though you're not a music therapist, certainly has a sense as to how important it can be. And so thank you for your time and for your ability to connect with us so that we can really make the most of our Music Therapy Month.